Good evening, and thank you for joining the Digital Media Mavens panel discussion on the reporting on the Baltimore protests. Well, I'm April Ryan, White House correspondent in Washington, bureau chief for the American Urban Radio Networks, and also the author of The Presidency in Black and White, my up-close view of three presidents and race in America. And also, most importantly, I am passionate about Baltimore. I am a Baltimore native from Northwest Baltimore to Northeast Baltimore, and still live in the Baltimore area. And today we're going to talk to you about the Baltimore reporting coverage and the national coverage. And I'm so pleased to be with you today as we prepare to have this candid and civil discussion about what we saw in Baltimore and what we watched about Baltimore. And I like that, Mark, civil discussion.
Civil.
Because as someone from Baltimore, I was depressed and I was hurting watching that, and so many people across the nation were as well. I mean, we saw Prince just recently come to town because he was concerned and saw what he saw. And Baltimore is a town that really supports him. But as cable news went wall to wall with scenes of looting and flames and destruction throughout the city, there are questions to be examined about the coverage of Freddie Gray's death, which triggered the rioting and its aftermath. And it's fair to say that the media may have fanned the flames. It is fair, I believe we could say that. We saw the riots and we saw the media stake out literally at Penn and North every night just before 10 o'clock, waiting to see what would happen. And do you think that actually fanned the flames? So I want to, before we go any further, introduce this great panel. The great Mark Steiner. I want to introduce Mark Steiner, the host of the Mark Steiner Show. I remember being a young reporter idolizing Mark Steiner. Yes. Yes, he is an icon here in Baltimore. Media icon, and thank you for being here, Mark.
My pleasure.
Nikki Mayo, the Associated Press Radio DC and president of the Baltimore Association of Black Journalists. Thanks for being here, Nikki.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Also, I want to introduce Joy Jefferson Norrie, founder and CEO of In Public Eye Communications. Thank you, Joy, for being here.
Baltimore native.
Baltimore native all the way.
Yes.
And Tanya Sharp, associate professor at the University of Maryland. Thank you all for being here. I want to start off basically with your feelings. I mean, we cover Baltimore, we live here. How did you feel seeing this coverage? I mean, we were so close. I mean, many of us, we may not do business at Penn and North, but we go by there. Penn and North is not far from City School headquarters. Penn and North, MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art, and the arts community.
Right.
I go to the hairdresser not far from Penn and North.
Right.
So that's it.
And who doesn't go to Montgomery in our lifetime?
How about that?
Montgomery was the center of black commerce for decades. It's the mall we went to no matter where you lived.
It was one of the first African American malls
It was
in
one
the
of the
nation.
first in the nation.
Yes.
And I grew up I lived in Cherry Hill and went to high school at Northwestern. So getting on the bus and traveling through,
You caught
that
me.
was,
Yeah.
that's right,
You caught
exactly.
me.
The M2
Right,
took you
right.
right by there, and your mom said, come around, but you went in that mall.
You went from
Yeah.
Cherry Hill to Northwestern?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, she went a long
I
It's a
went a
long
long
drive to high
way.
school.
Yes, it was a long way, but my parents thought it was worth it.
And we're going to get into that, but I want everybody, who's watching, I want you to go on Twitter, go on Facebook, hashtag BA Media Talks. Also, hashtag DM Mavens. Also, you can follow the live stream, download, sign up, and log in to any of these accounts and search it by using the hashtags we just mentioned, or search it by saying fair and balanced. Again, we have hashtag BA Media Talks and hashtag DM Mavens. Please let us know what you're thinking. Join in on the conversation. We want to talk to you. And unfortunately tonight, Mario Armstrong had to leave this evening unexpectedly to go to New York to be on the Today Show for tomorrow morning. So yes, Mario, we miss you, but do your thing on the Today Show. So let's go back to Mondawmin Mall and Northwestern Baltimore.
Right. Yeah. I felt like you did. I was heartbroken. One, when I first heard Freddie Gray. But for me, Freddie Gray was a long line of stories that had Eric Garner in it and Mike Brown. And there was a whole line of stories. So he fell into that line. But when I watched young Baltimore young men, and women who clearly had backpacks on, who
They were
they were
definitely
actually
children. That was-
children. As I watched, holding my breath to see if Mayor Rawlins would actually unleash billy clubs and tear gas on these children, and to watch the corporate media turn these children into criminals, and sometimes even our president, in his words. But it broke my heart to
And we'll
watch
get
my
to that.
city.
We'll definitely get
Yeah.
to that. I covered President Obama,
Yes.
and they never pulled back on that word.
No, they
thugs.
didn't.
But we're gonna trust
We'll
me.
get there.
We're getting to the word thugs
Okay.
in this segment tonight.
But it broke my heart because I knew the frustration of these young men living here, having known the city. I
But it
knew what was
also
happening.
very disappointing to see the coverage when you're looking at local and national. I'm a reporter that sits there and clicks back and forth. So on April 22nd, around 3, 4, 5 o'clock, just going back and forth between our local, WBAL, MAR, all those, and then going to see what the nationals, how the nationals were covering
And
it.
that should not be
That
named.
really just was a heartbreaking moment for me because I work in both local and national at the same
What was
time.
the difference that you saw?
Well, the difference is that locally, everyone was very careful to kind of skirt around the fact that we knew these were kids out here. They didn't have to say that these were teens. They kind of said, parents, if you know where your children are, could you please go find them? They kept saying, there's a concern about schools and nearby schools. They kept throwing the buzzwords out there, but they never distinctly said, these are definitely kids from insert high school here. There you go. They did also talk about the purge, which had been circulating around on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. And it's not like that's not the first time the kids have done the purge anyway. We all know about Six Flags around Halloween time. But then to go to the nationals, if I'm just talking about television here, I wasn't reading the websites. That was heartbreaking because, that's where you were starting to hear, these, not hooligans, but just everything to the effect of thugs again and again and again. Also, a lot of on the destruction. And it seemed like no one nationally could tell that you were talking about a bunch of kids here. My problem was they all had on navy shirts, khaki pants, and there were a lot of book bags in the pictures. If you couldn't tell it was a child, we have a problem.
Mark, you are someone who has a voice that so many people listen to. I mean, I listen to you almost every evening when I drive home from DC, just to hear what you have to say on WEAA. And you also have a national voice, and people look to you to really kind of put in perspective what happened from day one. What did you see that the media really didn't get a hold of in this piece?
Well, there was a lot of things. I think there were questions that they didn't ask. That's one of the things that got to me. They didn't ask about what happened at Montgomery. Let's take this, since you all talk about Montgomery. I mean, the question is, who locked the subways down? Who stopped the buses from taking the kids home?
They didn't ask
Who
the
put the
question
kids in
at
a
all.
position where they had to confront the police to start with? And that anger just flew.
City school system.
See,
Some of that city school system.
Some of the school system, and some people say there's this argument: did Governor Hogan shut down the subway, or did Commissioner Batts shut down the subway? Did Stephanie Walls know about who shut down the subway? Nobody really knows the answer to those questions. I've heard people tell me the answers, but none of it's verified, so I wouldn't throw it out there. But so that's another question, and I think there's also a difference between what happened at Montgomery and what happened in Northern Penn. And people didn't ask that question either. In other words, nobody asked when the first day we were covering this, there was a memo that came out from the police department that said that the Crips, the Bloods, and the Black Royal family were joining to target police. Well, that was a bogus from the beginning. And so no one's ever where did that come from? Why did that happen?
And why are we not questioning it now?
Why are we not questioning
Yeah,
it?
like,
Why?
Exactly.
Right.
And they haven't even found the real Instagram about the purge. That's never.
Actually, I saw that.
You saw that, but
Yeah.
nobody's verified the beginning
You
of that.
can't
or where it
verify
went,
anything on
right?
Instagram, though.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But you can kind of find out the initial one, the
Yeah.
first one.
Right.
You
Yeah,
can go back
I saw
on
the
Twitter
screen grab.
and Instagram and find out the very first
First
one.
one.
But I did see the screen grab of that, but I mean,
And-
again, you can't verify too well. So,
and I guess it's
yeah.
funny with this thing is I think that people don't. Who are these young people at Northern Penn? And to me, these are the children. I've been calling them on the air the children of the dispossessed, and what I mean by that is that these are kids whose parents and grandparents and parents were the ones at the end of segregation who lost their jobs in the deindustrialization, were the first ones hit by the major push to arrest people around drugs in this country. Before that, their parents lived in segregation. Before that, they lived in Reconstruction slavery. Before that, they had the Middle Passage.
Right.
These kids represent
It's the legacy.
young people in our society who have never had any opportunity to get out. They're stuck.
Right.
And we never talked about who they were.
Right.
But I did
But
And
it's
actually,
cycles.
and to piggyback that, they didn't talk about the context of if you have a community that has consistently been traumatized over and over and over again by experiencing homicide violence, by experiencing huge rates of crime and violence and victimization because of, let's call it, structural inequality. Right? Those kinds of stories weren't coming up and appearing about the underbelly of what was
Not
going
at the beginning.
on.
Not at the beginning. They tried to start tackling
But
the
towards
system.
the end, but then it was
Yeah.
just it felt like a cleanup.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Versus
it's all a cleanup. The
where-
media was cleaning up,
right.
and they were also cleaning up
where
these
is
stories
the
at the same
story
time.
about the devastation that's been experienced because of structural inequality? Where is the story about the individuals that are saying, if you have not chosen to see me before, I want to make sure that you see me and I'm hurting, my community's hurting.
But do you
And
pay
that
attention to those
story.
stories until something
Well,
goes on fire?
there you go.
That's my
Well,
question.
and do you
There you go.
and do you pay
Yeah.
attention when the thing stops burning?
Exactly.
You know,
That's a good
and
question.
When
and
the
I
lights
also
go
think that one of the question that isn't asked or isn't owned by media and culture society as a whole is that we have constructed and support a society that says you are of value by your things, by the home you live in, by the car you drive, by the tennis shoes that you have, by the way you have your hair and how much you spent for it to sew it in there. We are a culture that supports you being important by your things. That thing could be a degree, that degree, exactly. And then we set up systems by which 80% of the population has no access to those things.
There you go.
And then something happens where those $400 tennis shoes are just sitting there.
Right.
That window is broken.
You know,
So we go for the things because we have taught them that that's where value is.
and that's interesting. I was just last weekend in PG Mall, that's PG County Mall, not far from here. Another mandama of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
And,
annoying.
and they were talking about the fact that many young African Americans will stand in line at 8 o'clock in the morning
To get a
Right.
pair of
Oh, yeah.
tennis shoes.
for those
Oh, yeah.
$800 tennis shoes
Right.
or
Exactly.
$600 tennis
Exactly.
shoes.
And not just PG.
Yeah.
Around Baltimore, around all
Yeah.
of DC, they will stand in line for these shoes because that's where value is. These are people with no jobs sometimes or barely making it or making a choice between the shoes and the rent.
Okay, now let's say this, and again, from Baltimore, I mean, I remember going into work that Monday, and it was that weekend of the White House Correspondent Association dinner. And I'll never forget, I was there, and everybody was talking about Baltimore there. Everybody was talking about it. And then that Monday, everything happened, and I got calls, come home and get your children now, you know. And I was depressed because I said, what the nation is seeing is not the Baltimore I know.
No.
You know, we glorify The Wire. The Wire is a great show. You know, I'm
Right.
friends with some of the actors from The Wire. It's a great show, but that's not all Baltimore. I mean, for instance, we're sitting in an 1850s, a restored historic building, a beautiful brownstone. This is part of Baltimore as well. The narrative of Baltimore was shaped by someone else, by corporations who don't know Baltimore. Penn and North is Baltimore.
But when do they pay attention to Baltimore's narrative until we start putting stuff on fire? They saw hairspray. Well, look at the whole background story for that. Segregation and the strife
Right.
between that too.
Absolutely.
We don't get to have the fun stories. They only want to hear about crime and issues here. And that's why all the cameras came here and that's why they staked out and waited for 10 o'clock to come.
They
Before the
did
curfew.
every
I mean, there
night.
were more. I mean, I kept seeing on Instagram, Twitter, everything else. It
Right.
said there's more cameras here than there
Than
are
there are
people
people.
here.
They kept,
Yes.
they kept
It
showing
was
that fire
true.
in East Baltimore that had nothing to do.
And nothing to
They had
kept-
nothing-
they kept
nothing to do with
weaving
it.
it
They
into
made
the
you
narrative.
look.
Nothing
It
to
is
do
just
with
look
it.
at
weaving
it,
it
just watch
into
it.
the
Yeah.
I
narrative.
mean, Reverend Hickman said the fire
Has
at our place
nothing to do
Nothing
with
to do
it.
with
So let's talk about this cyclical issue of poverty. I mean, the magnifying glass was placed on Baltimore, and unfortunately, it highlighted some negatives of the city, but maybe it can turn into something good.
Oh, I think that
I'm
it's
hopeful. I
brilliant
am
that it
very
happened in
hopeful.
Baltimore. I actually believe that there is a way for us to see Freddie Gray as Emmett Till, as that abominable racist behavior that even the blind, numb American cannot overlook. This man all but was beheaded by severing his spine, and that Baltimore is that perfect city for it to happen.
So when we say Baltimore is that perfect city to happen, why didn't the national media, they touched on poverty at the end. I remember Joy Reid talking about the income flight out of Baltimore
Yes.
because Beth Steele.
Right.
How
Yeah.
many of us know people
Right.
who worked at Beth Steele
Right, right.
left Baltimore because of globalization? And we're talking about
Right,
trade
right.
now.
And
the
those
trade
middle
rates.
class communities never recovered.
Right. And those are people who did not have college educations. They
Right.
were middle income through high school degrees.
Right.
or
With those
maybe less.
factory jobs.
Right.
Very,
And those
very
factory
very-
jobs.
very,
are
very
Well,
gone.
this is how we
Middle
had the middle
class.
class. This is how we had middle class.
Right. I mean, I think that this is a statistic that I throw out a lot because I think we even have to wrestle with this. We're talking what is Baltimore. You have Jeff Singer, who founded Healthcare for the Homeless, a really
Yes.
brilliant activist in this town, did crunch some of these numbers by looking at census data. And there are, by his estimation, 86,000 families are home insecure, which means they live in dire poverty.
Say this again. Say this.
86,000 families are home insecure.
In Baltimore.
In Baltimore. So let's say take conservative, let's say you say multiply that times 4, right? And it's 45,000 people. That's over half the people of Baltimore City who live in dire poverty. You cannot rebuild a city when half your people live in that kind of dire poverty. And then there's a whole number of people around the periphery who are teetering on poverty who are not in it. And we talk about this beautiful building we're in and the good work folks do here. We look at the Inner Harbor, but we need to look at the rest of Baltimore. I mean, we can't answer this question anymore unless we really focus in on.
And if you're above that periphery or in the poverty area, you have a flight to the county, as they say, and because you want to have the sunrise another way, you want to see the deer and the fox run around in your backyard and the local yard.
But you
I
know,
mean-
or you stay, or you stay because
No, but
you may
that
not.
is a reality.
That is
that's
our reality.
But that's
I mean,
reality. I
immigration
think that's a
up
reality
price
of
to Owens Mills. That's
all
the reality.
American cities right now. But I think even in Baltimore,
Detroit is like that.
Detroit,
People left Detroit and went straight.
But I think even in Baltimore, a lot of people do stay. A lot of people stay. The flight is great, but a lot of people stay because you're not housing insecure, but your income is not going to allow you to go to the suburbs. You're not going to be able to take that big a hit. You pay to pay that rent or to buy a house out there. But what happens is you now have a house that will not appreciate in value, so you're not building wealth for your family.
Right.
You're living in a school district that continues to deteriorate, so you're not building wealth for your family. So it does have this ripple
Joy,
effect.
and you hit something. Wealth for Black people comes a lot of times from home ownership.
home ownership.
Home ownership.
Exactly right.
Education,
Right.
borrowing
Right.
borrowing on the
Absolutely.
home for education
Exactly.
or starting a business.
Or starting a business.
So yeah, that is a very
Right.
important piece.
Absolutely.
With us, Mark Steiner, the host of the Mark Steiner Show, Nikki Mayo, the Associated Press, Radio DC, and the Baltimore Association of Black Journalists, Joy Jefferson Norrie, founder and CEO of In Public Eye Communications, and Tanya Sharp, the Associate Professor at the University of Maryland. I'm going to charge all of you, while you're not talking, to tweet out, okay?
Okay.
All of you. Yeah, tweet out. Tweet
I
out.
have mine already scheduled.
All right. All right. And okay, now I'm going to give you the hashtags again at BA Media Talks and at DM Mavens. Also, you can follow the live stream, download, sign up, log in to any of these accounts, and search using the hashtag of the BA Media Talks or DM Mavens as well, or go to search Fair and Balanced. So, this conversation is very, very interesting. I love talking because I was actually depressed, being someone from Baltimore.
I was sad.
I was depressed.
Oh.
I was depressed because, and I'm going to tell you why. The day after Monday, Tuesday, I stayed home because we didn't know. We were seeing these Instagram things saying that the purge is going to happen at Security Square Mall.
And people staked out at Security Square Mall.
Yeah, but
Right,
anyway,
right.
so
Security Square Mall.
so it's
Nothing happened.
So I'm going to get into this. So, and this is the thing that everybody's focusing on the city, but there was other stuff going on in the county because we are like conjoined twins.
Right.
Right.
Baltimore City and Baltimore County are like conjoined twins. So I get an email from the school. Come pick up your children by 2:00. All the independent schools in Baltimore County shut down. Everything in Baltimore County shut down because they were scared that the purge was coming to the county. Chick-fil-A was closed.
Right.
Best Buy was closed. And then, wait a minute. So, and you didn't hear about this in the media.
No.
So, and then, I actually witnessed it. I have it on my Facebook page and on my Instagram. There were some people riding around with brandishing a flag in the back of their pickup truck. 2 flags. One with a snake saying "Don't tread on me," and the other one was a Confederate flag. So
Where was this?
this was in Owings Mills.
Owings Mills.
I've got the picture.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
No, I was very, and everybody was
I'm
like,
gonna blame
do
Westminster.
tensions were so hot, and it was
What
not
are they
tolerable.
doing?
Right.
What are they doing?
And I think, do you think that the media helped, the national media help fan the flames of this tension.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
So there's already a little bit,
Absolutely.
okay, there's already
Without
tension
question.
there, and then the spectacle that was the
Right.
coverage that went
Right.
around, not just April 27th, by the way. Think about after the O's game. That
Oh.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, when you had City Hall, happy.
Yes.
And then about
Yes.
3 hours later, you had let's go on to
Yes.
the O's game.
Yes.
I was covering that. I'm sitting there like, they're going to
Yes.
the O's game? This is not going to end well.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand why it was so much coverage about the historic fact that the O's game was canceled. I mean, you had a city that could possibly jump off at any minute if it was going to.
Because it was a sport. We are big on sports. Nationally, people care more about sports than they do
I
about
have to say, I
the whole Black
think
Lives
it's a
Matter thing.
little deeper than that, though.
I think it's a sports thing.
I think it's a sports
Can you
thing.
tell us, yeah?
But I also think that there are clear lines of delineation when you were talking about the National Guard and who was protecting the police and the way and the manner in which the police and all of the coverage was happening downtown at the O's game. Because I live 3 blocks away. I live in Bolton Hill. So I could smell the pepper spray. I
Right.
could see the smoke.
And that's another
Okay.
thing.
And
Bolton Hill,
the
that
coverage that was going on
that elite enclave.
3
Right.
blocks away from my house,
Heading
where
north,
my
yeah.
post office, was extremely different from police and media from what was going on downtown.
Right.
Well,
And
we
I
have
think
a
that
military
has to do a lot with what is downtown. You have businesses,
Mhm.
you have a different breed of folk going to the sports games,
Yeah.
right?
Especially baseball.
And then you also have other stuff going on in Penn and North. And so it was very, if the lines were not made then, it was very, very clear.
Speaking of lines, by the way, what got really blurred about things were that you had protesters and then you just had people who were somehow, way, shape, or form, they were there to riot. I'm sorry. You had people go from protesting in front of City Hall. That made sense. But then you had folks that went down to that game that Saturday before the 27th. I don't know what
And
it was.
it was a small group of people.
Was
and
it a
that's
small
when
group of
the,
people?
that's when the
Even that,
media kind of expanded.
So was
it.
it
I
another
very
Ferguson where we
glad.
had 2 blocks looked like it was all of like,
See, I would take
A
issue with
blown-up
that.
thing?
No,
I would
Ferguson
take
was
issue
like
with
not even a mile.
Like,
that was
exact- that was
one
a small
corner.
area.
That was
Right,
one
right, right.
corner.
that was such a
What-
small area, and the way it looked on TV, you would have thought you were watching
Yes.
like a full scale,
Absolutely.
you know.
That was
Absolutely.
literally
Exactly.
an intersection.
The
And
media-
Ferguson was
the
less
media
than a
didn't
mile.
Very
cover the
small.
reality of what happened there. I was part of that. Our team was part of that. People were there. They did not cover the reality. The reality was the first turn of a demonstration around the stadium.
Right.
The second turn around the demonstration went through. All these drunken people came out of the bars. They started chanting, "We don't care. We don't care. We don't care." People
Never saw that.
and people started throwing the N-word out. And
Oh.
people started yelling back. There was this
I
confrontation
never-
back and
right,
forth.
right.
People threw stuff back and forth, and that's how it began. It wasn't a bunch of young kids trying to start a fight with people who were going to the
No,
Orient.
I would agree.
I would agree. I would agree.
It was-
But I
it
think-
really came from the other side first, and the media didn't cover that at all. I mean, they didn't get under it.
But was the rally still going on at the time? Is my question then.
The rally was like a moving object.
Because I saw the rally move, stop at City Hall. I saw a line of speeches and everything. I remember pulling cuts from all of that. And then after that, it was like we're going to continue down to the O's game. That's when I was like, was it really continuing or not?
So wait a minute. Mark hit on something, and you
Yeah.
guys are hitting the N word, and I want to come to that because we're going to get to the N word and thug in a moment. But I'm going to ask you something really fast. Did the media pay the national media? Did they pay more attention to the issue of the fighting between, or the issue of Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake and her reactions and how she's handling it and what she said, her misspeak or whatever you want to say that was, and not pay attention to the fact that the city school system knew that the purge was happening, and then the city school system knew about Tuesday. And I mean, did they miss the real story?
But you know, I want to
story,
jump
yes.
in on this. I think this is the core of what we're here to talk about. What you just said. I think that we have 24 hours worth of news and we have less intelligence around covering the news.
There you go.
Amen.
I think that
Amen.
we run the same loop over and over again. I mean, you can watch one of the networks.
I love the mother. I'm
Okay,
gonna say,
Yes,
you know,
now at that point,
Toya Graham.
corporal punishment was needed. I'm sorry.
Toya Graham is thebomb.com. We know that.
But you know what?
she's
But
right
still,
about we have
that's all we
weaker
did for
newsrooms.
12 hours. That's all we did for 12 hours. And I think that the sort of things you're asking, where's there a misstep here? Where's there poverty here? Are we looking at this number? If we're talking about 24 hours, 24 hours of news coverage, and we cannot even pause long enough to cover the nuances of these big stories. So we have more time for news and less news.
Yeah, more time for news, less
Our
people in the
society
newsrooms.
should be able to dissect these things and have such sophisticated conversations about poverty, around youth, around race, around Stephanie Rollins, around Barack Obama, but we have 24 hours to do it, and I think the media thinks we're not smart enough or we don't have attention spans
No, the
enough
truth of the matter
to
is the
do
newsrooms
it.
are too small. The newsrooms are entirely downsized to the point of you have nobody in there working this stuff.
And they were running after people who were from Baltimore to explain what was happening.
And
They
mispronouncing
really were.
Montgomery to a point where
I
I
love
wanted to
Montgomery.
scream
Oh my God,
at
they
the
stopped
end.
saying it.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I
oh my
tweeted,
God!
like, how many times do I hear Montgomery?
Montgomery.
Say it with me now.
Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Three syllables. Right.
But I mean, I always bring this up, and I bring this up whenever there's like a really crazy story. And we're like, how did they miss this? Like, how did you miss asking about the school system? How did you miss asking about that tension
There's
between
so
the
many
governor?
layers, actually.
Because you
And
don't
it's
have
clear
the
tension
staff for
between,
that.
it's a lot
No,
of
I
clear
don't think
tension
you need
between a lot of
staff
the
to
power
do that.
structure
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
in
see some of
Baltimore
that stuff.
against
Yeah.
each other, and there's clear tension with the power structure in Baltimore
But
City
none of these
with each
questions
other,
were being
and
asked.
They're
also
not
with
being
the
asked.
city and the state. But I will say this, and I'm going to say this, and my question is, are we going to see the summer months, national media come back? Because now
A
the
trial
focus-
will happen.
Well, now, no, not just the trial, but it's not just the trial. There is a concern, a large concern, that the summer could breed, this summer in Baltimore and other cities could breed what happened the spring and last summer, meaning kids need summer jobs. They need a robust program. And I think this is a time for national media to come back and turn the story around to show the positive or see what's working and what's not.
You know,
I would love
it is
to,
a-
but
it is
how
a
do you
wonderful
push those
opportunity.
stories
But
nationally?
let's not even wait to the summer. What is today? May 13th?
13th.
Thank you, May 13th.
May 13th, yeah.
Since this incident has happened, it's 10 plus individuals who've been murdered in Baltimore.
How about that Thursday
10
when you had 9
plus individuals
people
who
shot?
have been murdered here in Baltimore.
But where is
so if
the
you're going
outrage?
to come back, don't come back when the trial happens.
Tanya, I'm
don't
with
come
you.
back and be consistent about systemic
But Tanya,
change.
let me say this. As someone who was a reporter in Baltimore for many years, V103, Heaven 600, WBGR, I did some other places, WEAA. I remember the crime stats. We always used to do the crime stats during the summer. The summertime was when it was warm, kids were out, and if they had
And that's
nothing
when
to
you
do,
nothing to do
that's
but
when
get in
things
trouble.
happen. So that's what they're saying. That's what I'm hearing now, this robust effort to have some kind of big program push for these young people.
Look at the numbers. You can look at, the actual numbers or hits, the page hits on any of these stories. When we're talking about educational programs, how many hits do you get? When you're talking about black people burning down their homes, then how many hits do you get?
But I think there's a couple of things. We're not going to see any more jobs for kids for the summer. The mayor's made it clear that they're not going to boost that number. I mean,
They're gonna
it's not
continue
there.
what they already have,
And
yeah.
which is a disaster.
She said this
Yeah.
recently? Okay.
But the other part is, I think media can do something different. I mean,
Can.
somebody who is worth their salt as a creative mind can make a story interesting to the public.
Right.
I have 2 producers who work full time and a third person. We have a very small staff. But we were out there 24/7, making documentaries, doing interviews, getting stories, and bringing them back. We didn't stop.
Now here's the
We
bad
kept
question.
rolling.
Are y'all
But-
ratings driven?
Pardon?
Are you ratings driven?
And I would no.
That's it.
But here's the
But
other part.
did you
No,
pitch
but-
those stories to like Steve Kornacki? You've been on like some of those the NBC shows.
We did, and they took some. But the bigger piece is here. What media could be doing is this: they'll show somebody getting busted because they have a red bandana or a blue bandana on,
Like,
and
could
that's
this
what they
be a
want to show,
gang
right?
story?
But what don't they show? The young man who you saw a lot in the media from Baltimore. One of the men was a young man named Davon Love.
Oh
Yes.
Okay. So Davon, I've known since he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Davon comes from the same communities these other kids come from. Davon was part of the Boodle, which was the Urban Debate Leagues in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And so a person with his media assault, which we did, could take a story following a Davon Love or a young man or a young woman like
Could.
that in those streets, those hard streets, showing the story about where this kid went. And you can make it sexy, you can make it hot, you can make what people want to watch. But we don't want to celebrate those kids. We just want to celebrate the kids who do wrong.
Well, because that
Yes,
story's
people-
harder to do. That story's harder to do, and it doesn't take more manpower. It
It
takes
is
more
harder to do.
commitment.
It takes more
It
brain
takes
power.
more
It
commitment. But I think that there was a time, and maybe I am wafting romantic about a time before me around media where I remember reading stories where newsrooms
That would
lost
be my
money.
time with it.
Yeah, right there.
Was that by
You don't want to
Was that by candlelight? Was that by candlelight?
Right. It was Abe Lincoln's fireside chat. But
I respect
But what
it.
I'm saying,
Abe Lincoln that did the fireside chat.
Yeah,
That was one of them.
one of them. But
And I'm a
no,
White House correspondent. I'm like trying to remember which
when
one it
news
was.
divisions knew that news divisions lost money,
Oh,
and that news divisions
Right.
felt that they were a public service.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That, when news divisions are willing, the anchor wasn't a star. He was the good reporter that came out of World War II that went forward to become the good reporter and maybe rose up to be the star. He wasn't the star because he was cute or she was cute. It was because newsrooms had a commitment, and local newsrooms, and in Baltimore, growing up, you watch those local news care about what was happening in Cherry Hill.
Al Sanders.
Al Sanders, Jerry
Oh
Turner.
my God.
That's right.
Remember Kurt Anderson?
Kurt
when he used to
Anderson.
be
Right.
on Channel 2?
But you would see them in your community as anchor people.
I'm
You would
dating
see them.
myself.
I know it's like Abraham Lincoln and the.
No, I'm not that far. I'm not that far.
I'm old enough to
They're
remember
all
when Dumb and What's in
competing.
Black.
Oh my God! Yes.
Everyone is competing. I guess.
Okay.
Well, then I guess I'll show my age. Everyone is competing for the same eyeballs that are in your hands right now. So
Yeah.
you have this screen here, you have your laptop there, and then you have a television. Plus you have the radio and everything else.
Right.
So that's what's killing all that nuance.
No, but
that
what I'm
paying
saying
attention
here
to
is that's the beginning of the shift. The
Well,
shift
that
has
is
to
it.
happen.
Wow.
No, it has to happen. These conversations have to happen. April has to convene news directors. April has to. We have
Do
to
it, April.
all.
Do
That's right.
I'm the
Because
convener. There you go.
when that network that does this story
Yeah.
will get the eyeballs, but somebody has to be brave enough to say,
Yeah.
"Yikes, let's jump in."
I watched CNN attempt to get to that story, and it was like, okay, you put so much into the fire and brimstone, and then it was just a walk down the street with a really great kid. I'm like, do you know how many really great kids I could have got you for this?
But
one?
you know what? Let me say this. Baltimore
Yeah.
is such a newsy town, period.
Yes.
Baltimore has always been such a newsy town.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
last weekend, what was it? It's Sunday night, Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I attended the Prince concert just to go to the concert, and it was news all up
All
in the
the-
concert.
right,
and
right,
I'm
right,
tweeting
right,
it.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Baltimore Baltimore's a very, it has always been a newsy town, and I think that I think it's incumbent upon us
Yeah.
to really keep it going, keep the narrative going, and just do the stories that the national media is not doing, because I think that they're listening and they're watching. And I think if we bring, talk about what happened at the school headquarters, talk about the things, the nuances that we know, I think that we can lead and they will start following. And it's unfortunate, some of that is upon us.
Right.
But I just find it just really interesting. But I want to segue.
But also some of it's upon us who work. You have a unique position, April, in that you have a
it's
radio.
all on me.
No. I'm saying that
All right,
because
Joy.
your voice has always been the voice of the community. Even when you were in Baltimore on the air and the work you do now. You have always been that voice that is not the corporate voice. But I worked in newsrooms where I was sometimes the only voice. I can't tell you how many networks I've worked at where I was accused of being, why are you always bringing the black stories? I said, because nobody else is.
Nobody else is right.
As soon as you guys start bringing the black stories, I can stop.
Let me say this to this piece. I am the only African American in that White House press corps that focuses on urban issues. And trust me, the momentum goes down and I get eyeballs rolled up and everything. But the story is the story. I'm not worried about it. I'm not always a part of that hyper-aggressive pack, the front two rows, talking about what's happening in Syria or Yemen, or talking about
which are all important. But
they're important.
No.
But once they finish, there's a Baltimore, there's a Ferguson,
right,
there's
yeah,
North
right.
Charleston,
Thank you. Right.
and they're not going to always ask that question until it's a crescendo moment. But I'm going to say this: a dear friend, Ken Strickland, who is the Washington bureau chief, African American Washington bureau chief of NBC, he said this. He said, it's not always about the newsrooms. Sometimes the newsrooms can make a difference and make change, but we are not in those newsrooms enough. You don't have enough black political reporters.
Right.
And we need more of that.
Right.
So I think it's twofold. It's incumbent upon the newsroom and incumbent upon the next generation of broadcasters to come up and look at politics. Politics sometimes is way over our heads, but if you can, it's not that hard. Once you start digging into it and understand what affects you, I mean, you gave me information just now. I didn't know about the fact that the summer programs
Aren't getting more
are
money.
not going to get any more money
Right.
after all of this happened. That's news.
Right.
So where are the major networks talking about that? Because Baltimore is still
Is that hub now?
yeah.
Right. Right. Baltimore is that hub
I mean, you
now.
got Prince doing a song in Baltimore. He was here. Beyonce was here. I mean, there is a focus on Baltimore.
Right. Because Baltimore can be that place.
We are that
There
hot
is,
city.
we are that,
can be.
it could be, not to use cliches, but it could be that Selma, that moment. Because
Oh.
Baltimore has that energy of
We really do.
lots of
Yeah,
different
that's true.
races,
That is very true.
different,
That is very true.
different incomes, different communities,
Yeah.
this sort of microcosm of America.
Exactly.
You know, and that's Baltimore.
What I like most about, I hate to say it, to like anything about the whole Freddie Gray, travesty that's happened is that I have friends from outside of the area, and they said, okay, so do you guys need like a whole bunch of like help from outside of
No.
Baltimore? I said, frankly, not really. You do realize that the NAACP is like right there. We have
National
so-
headquarters is right there.
Right,
Right
like,
here.
right down the street, like
Right
right
here.
there. We have,
Right.
we do have the Nation of Islam. We do have
Right.
all these organizations like right here. So
Right.
we have everything right
A
here.
very
Frankly, y'all
effective
can sit back and
100
watch
The
us do
headquarters
this.
of
Right.
Social Security is
It's
right
right here.
outside.
Right
Right
outside
outside
Right.
of Baltimore
And I think
City.
people sleep on it because they got
Yeah.
so like, ooh,
Yeah.
DC, wow, really big. Okay, well, let me just tell you right now, Baltimore has everything it needs to fix this little situation right there.
I mean, I
You
think
can watch it. It could be a pilot.
one of the stories is a couple of them is going to be breaking. I think clearly one's going to be Marilyn Mosby and what she did, both to
Thank you for bringing that up.
charge the police officers, the 6 police officers, and that's going to be really controversial. I've been all the lawyers on either side. There was a press conference today for the block her name, the black woman police officer.
Yes.
Alicia White.
And her lawyers were out there saying that Marilyn Mosby made a mistake because she was only there for 5 seconds.
But
And
she
then left.
asked him and he didn't respond.
Right. But
The man is
there's gonna
laying
be a lot-
on a
and these
paddy
trials
wagon floor.
won't take place until next summer at the
Right.
earliest.
Okay.
You've got a
So-
whole year before these things even happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've got to go through a lot of machinations as if to see if there's going to be change of venue and who is actually going to prosecute
Exactly.
the case. And it's a lot of things going on.
And you know, and I think it's going to behoove our community to educate our community
Yeah.
about what the legal process
Yes.
is about.
And that's
Because
reporting has to do
People are
that.
very, very happy
Right.
about these arrests
I was
and these
surprised by
charges,
that. I was like,
but
you
there's
do
a
know.
whole other steps
It's gonna be a tough
or
case to win.
12 that are going to happen that might look very disappointing.
Right.
You know,
I was really surprised that many people were like not realizing this is not it. You get that, right? Like we are so not it.
right? But it's a good first step, though. It was a very dramatic and wonderful good step, but it's not it, and
Prince
we have
felt
to
the
educate.
Same way. Prince felt the same way because the way I understand it, he came here, because he was very happy with what Marilyn Mosby did.
Yes.
So, and that's why he brought her on stage. So I
Mhm.
digress.
But
But
well,
we're
that was fodder
another
for
Controversy.
conversation.
Oh, it made
Oh,
every national
right.
news. I was like, every national
It
news story.
did.
It was all over the place.
Oh
It was all
wow!
over the place.
Like, was that
Right.
professional?
'Cause when
Should
I-
she have
I'm
done
gonna-
that?
Yes.
How was she
sitting-
at the Prince concert?
And again, that's but the issue that is a side story. That is part of the story.
I'm like-
But the bigger story is
Bringing back the argument we were asking about, like, why aren't these stories being told? But we care about she was at the Prince concert.
Right.
You get that? Like, okay.
Right.
no. It wasn't the fact that she was at the prison.
No.
It was the fact that the prosecutor. No, it
That's
was
a
very
story.
news.
It's a
It was
story.
very- that
Right.
Prince wanted her there. He looked at her as a hero.
The cleanups continue over at Penn North.
Right.
Hello,
But we
that's
can still
CBS
do
and the whole
that.
drug
It's a
thing. They're still not
legitimate-
talking about that.
It's a
But
legitimate question
but
to
I do
ask
hear
whether
the
she
I
should
do
run
hear
on
the
stage.
15.
Right.
I do hear
As a
about the
reporter, that
15
was a
minutes
very
of
It's a
newsy
legitimate
thing.
question to ask.
But what are we going to do? Because you talked about the whole idea of yes, it can be a possibility, and the whole idea, do we have hope? And I do have some sort of hope, but I think it's going to take a very insulated sort of collective coming together of universities, of community
Exactly.
agencies, of all those individuals to start to cut down the turf war issues and come together and really have conversations about what do we want Baltimore to look
And
like.
I would be
you know,
interesting
what
to
do we
see. You
want it
have
to
two people
Right.
who are one person who has declared that he's running for president from Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
And you got another one talking about he's thinking about
No,
running.
those
for
Right.
stories
president.
got enterprise
Wait.
really fast.
Yeah, but my thing is two of them from Baltimore, and that's interesting to see what happens.
Yes.
To see what they will do, and
on
talk
that
about the urban
Monday
agenda.
Like
night,
somebody thought to think
on
about those stories.
that
Those came out.
Monday night, Ben Carson was on CNN on that Monday night,
I saw that.
and that
Like, why aren't you
reporter
in Baltimore?
asked him, was he going to Baltimore And to my amazement, he said,
He has
I already
plans.
have my schedule set. I cannot disrupt my schedule to go to Baltimore. And even the reporter was jaw-slapped. I mean, just sort of
Well,
like,
he turned around from
what?
Dublin and gave up the money and came back. He did though.
he did come back.
He did come back. He
Why? Because after he said that on CNN,
It
the
did
world
not look
blew up.
good.
Yeah,
It did not look-
yeah, right.
It did
Exactly.
not look good.
The world blew up.
Yeah, right.
He was a former mayor of Baltimore.
Even
People
his
are blaming
advisors
him.
were like, what?
He's a former mayor of Baltimore. People are putting some of the blame on him. He had to come around. He had to come back. He had to.
Right.
This
He had no
right,
choice.
This is not going to help Martin O'Malley's race at all. I mean, I think
No, no.
No.
Not so much.
I'm going to be covering it. I've talked to
No.
him. You know,
Yeah.
he's a possible
I've had-
contender.
Yeah, he
I've had
was.
over 22 years of conversations on tape with Martin O'Malley.
Pull him up.
All right.
Pull him up.
Pull
I
him
wanna
up.
hear
Pull
him.
us
Pull him
up. We
up.
want to hear
From
those.
city
yeah.
council days
Particularly on
now.
To
crime.
mayor, to
Particularly
governor.
on
On
crime.
that, and I remember
My
those debates we
catchphrase,
had on the
this will
show
not end
about
well.
crime, and we have to remember and it's not all his fault, but when he was mayor, over 750,000 people were arrested in Baltimore.
Right.
100,000 in 1 year.
Not
before
a
she
zero
did that.
tolerance thing going on.
And even during Sheila Dixon's time, 75,000 arrests were done in 1 year. Almost a third of those thrown out after those people stayed in city
Right.
jail. So this is again the word you used. It's a systemic issue.
All right,
It affects everybody
and,
involved.
I'm glad you made the point, and I'm going to make this point really fast, and we're going to go to the N-word and thugs because we got 15 minutes, so we got to get this.
Okay.
But I will say this: when Kurt Schmoke was mayor, I remember they put $130 million into Sandtown, Winchester,
Yeah.
with the Rouse Company.
Right. With
And then
Rouse.
when the new mayor came, we don't know what happened.
Right.
And the new mayor was
Do we know what happened?
The
Martin
new
O'Malley.
mayor was Martin O'Malley. So.
Martin O'Malley.
I'm just gonna let you continue. Go
No,
ahead.
no. I don't have any open, honest, candid, and civil discussion.
I think that
Yes.
a lot of times our answers are to, okay, we're gonna throw some money here, we're gonna write this grant here, we're gonna get this, so forth and so on. So the money, what happened to the money? I think we're doing these audits of the criminal
It's a
justice
multi-tiered
system,
problem.
right?
It's a multi-tiered
And so I
problem.
think there needs to be a little auditing about where did the money go? How was it spent? Are there training programs and opportunities and employment and education opportunities for the people that are actually in the community? Was the money spent that way? And if so, how much of it was? So we have to start asking
And
these
can we measure the
questions
results?
But you
and
hit
peeling
something.
apart an onion.
You said something. Something that was very poignant, and I don't. It kind of glossed over everyone. But you said hope, and a lot of people in Sandtown, Winchester, people who live in these blighted communities, don't feel hope. And I
Without
think
question.
when there's life, there's hope. My mother used to always say that, and that's the thing. People have to feel a sense of hope and feel like they are better than their surroundings and their
Or their
conditions.
tennis
and
shoes.
stuff. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a multi-tiered issue, but and that's something that they didn't touch in national media as well.
Well, they didn't talk about people like Elder Harris and folks in that community who are actually doing things that are changing the nature of Sandtown. They didn't cover any of that.
Again, those stories did not make it to the farm
But
front.
he is, I mean, like Elder Harris is building an urban farm system,
Yeah.
putting ex-felons to
Yeah,
work,
right.
and building
That's
a business,
amazing.
and
Thank you.
he's doing
And
all these
that's
other things that
Thank you.
nobody's talking to Elder
Thank you,
Harris about
thank you.
what his
And
vision
that
is for that place.
And
kind
here's
of
my thing
grassroots
is that-
community organizing from soup to nuts that is required on a larger
Right.
to build a broad base for
I always
Baltimore.
remind people that you can always blog for free. You can always put your information out there for free. No, I'm serious. I mean, I
Right.
worked in online and everything as well as on TV and everything else. And frankly, if your story is not being told, and I hate saying this as, the president of the journalism group, then tell it yourself.
All
There's
right.
no reason why they should not be telling these stories themselves.
With 15 minutes left, we are going to the N-word and thugs.
Okay.
Okay.
We heard I know we had a So we heard the word thugs used by Stephanie Rawlings Blake, and then the governor said, "Well, she said thugs."
So
I
I
Then we and it's sad. I mean, we laugh because it's like it's not
painful.
funny. It's not funny, but
Painful.
it's painful.
Councilman,
And then
yeah.
you have the president of the United States standing in the Rose Garden, saying, or wherever he was, saying, because the days are running together. He said the word thugs too, but he did not. They did not take it back. So I want to play a piece right now for all of us to see, and I hope those who are watching online.
Thugs.
What is the word thug?
The word thug.
What is the
Baltimore
word thug?
Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake walked back her use of the word thug during the Baltimore riots. Too many people have spent generations building up this city for it to be destroyed by thugs. I clearly made a mistake. I should not have characterized people's kids as thugs.
But where did the word come from? And is it even an okay word to use? Thug originated from the Hindi word thuggy and literally meant thief. It at one time referred to bands of roaming robbers in India who used deadly force to enrich themselves. In the 1920s and 30s, thug means habitual criminal or gangster. By the 1990s, Tupac Shakur tried to reclaim the word,
which is a new kind of black power.
Thank you so much.
more recently after some unsportsmanlike behavior by Seattle Seahawk Richard Sherman.
When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're gonna get.
He was called a thug.
On Monday, the word thug was said 625 times on TV.
With Sherman responding,
The only reason it bothers me is because it seems like it's the accepted way of calling somebody the N-word nowadays.
depending on its context, describing someone as a thug could be acceptable.
Where a thug and a murderer like Bashar al-Assad can gas thousands of his own people.
But for all the times the president's critics have called him a thug,
But people aren't going to take the thuggery of this president much longer.
Looking like you're some kind of political thug at the White House.
Why would Obama say that? He's a thug.
the president used the word himself.
A handful of criminals and thugs who tore up the place.
And the White House refused to back down.
No, I don't think the president would in any way revise the remark. Whether it's arson or the looting of a liquor store, those were thuggish acts.
But is thug really just the N-word in disguise?
No one is calling the police who put this kid in a van and snapped his spine and crushed his voice box thugs, right?
It's been a sort of polite, PC way to say the N-word.
Isn't it the right word?
No, of course it's not the right word to call our children thugs.
They know it's wrong to steal and burn down a CVS and an old person's home. I mean, come on.
Come on, so calling them thugs, just call them just call them.
However you want to describe the rioters in Baltimore, one thing is clear. The word thug has become, for many people, a loaded one.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Wow. So I think they're still playing it for our people on live stream.
Okay.
And it just ended. Okay, so is the new N word?
It feels like it's code. It really does feel like it's a loaded way of, it's a code, and it feels like it's a loaded way to say the N-word without saying it. Because there's really no reason why Richard Sherman should have been locked in with someone who does thievery or steals or anything. He was an excited
No, I agree
man.
with you on that. I agree
He
with
was
you.
an excited man at the end of a football game. I mean, he's yelling into a microphone. Nothing about this, if I'm not mistaken, Stanford educated man. I'm pretty sure he's from Stanford. Nothing about him screamed thug.
Top of
here.
his class, 4.0.
Thank you. So I was like,
Thank you, Mark.
He's a smart.
But the perception, he was excited. He wears dreadlocks, and
Well,
you know,
because-
there's nothing wrong. You know,
Right. No, I get your
Yeah.
point.
I mean, thug has come to mean young black people, young black men. That's what it's come to mean. It's mean different things over the course of time. In this period we live in, that's what it means. And that's what it conjures up in people's minds. And
Do you know, it's interesting because someone raised in that piece something that I heard it before and it struck me today the same as it did before. Those police officers, Eric Garner, Mike Brown,
They don't get
Freddie
that
Ryan, they're not called
characterization.
thugs.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is we live in a society, and I said it before, we value our stuff. You're a thug when you value this, when you burn this stuff. You're not a thug when you kill the black human, because you were supposed to be defending our stuff against those black humans.
But here's the key.
It
you
is about
said-
protecting
but it's
the
interesting,
property.
Though. Think about what you said. You said you're not a thug when you actually kill a thing that is of value. How powerful is that?
So now looking at what the
Exactly.
claim would be.
Above that, right?
every
Right. Well,
life,
it depends on how
every
you-
life is valuable.
And-
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what?
but it's
the
interesting.
difference is, do you see that life as valuable?
Here you go.
And that life is not valuable.
And those kids who were out there, let's say on this Monday night, we talk about the Monday night at North
Yeah,
Penn and
April 27th.
outside of Montgomery.
They don't you?
Yes, I do.
And
It's- yeah.
the people we
So-
would think of as thugs in this society, if you want to use the word thug, would be the Bloods, the Crips, the BGF, on the corner.
Who were out
They
there
were the
creating
ones.
peace.
Who were out
They
there.
were the ones creating the peace.
Right,
Yes.
right. And the police were the thugs.
And we also, I think the city has blown an opportunity, and people have blown the opportunity, and the church has blown the opportunity, not all of them, to pull these young people in now.
Yes.
This was the moment to grab a hold.
Right. To bring the leaders in.
Right.
Right.
I will say this, and I think the national media did get this right. There are several heroes, local heroes in this. I think Reverend Jamal Bryant was one of the most eloquent and major heroes of this situation. I think Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, was one of the major
Absolutely.
heroes.
In
the
the
media,
middle
the
of it,
national
in
media,
the
the
street.
national media.
Without question.
Reverend
Yes.
Bryant knows how to throw a soundbite, but he was
Right.
also doing
Right.
the
Yeah,
dude.
very
He was
right.
working.
Right,
And
right.
he was in his church. I remember one night, was it the second night, he was in his church when the curfew, he said, I'm here. I'm
Here,
here.
right.
And he's, and I thought that was a really good message to send to people who thought to go
Yeah.
Right.
and cause trouble. And also I think Kathy Pugh was really one of those out there in the forefront.
And there were unsung people.
And
too.
there were
There were
unsung people.
unsung, yeah,
And
there was a lot of
There was a
unsung
Vietnam
people.
vet.
But I'm saying with
Yeah.
who the national media
But that's- but
spotlighted.
the
Right,
people
right.
who were doing the work there every day, all night long,
Like
not
300.
sleeping,
No,
like
I was
Reverend
sitting there
Heber
like
Brown,
that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mount Pleasant
Yes.
Baptist Church, people
Yes.
like that were there.
Who at Mount Pleasant?
Eva Brown.
Reverend Heber Brown.
Okay,
He was
Brown.
out there constantly.
Yeah.
He was there in Mondawmin getting kids on buses, making sure kids got home
was,
safe. He was
right.
out there all the time.
And consistently.
And
so.
I think that again, back to missing this opportunity is that I did a piece about 10, 12 years ago. I wrote at Rose and Ashland with people who were facing down the drug gangs at Rose and Ashland, trying to build a new community. And one of the things I came up with was a story I called "Nothing's More Powerful Than a Thug That's Turned to Peace." And because
So like to reform people.
I'm talking about the guys in the corner. When somebody comes out of prison, when somebody's on the corner, and they become the person who's actually trying to create change. To me, there's nothing more powerful. And that's why I think we missed your chance to really. It really upsets me that we're not bringing these young people in to make that change.
Plus, I mean, this past weekend alone, they had like events every day of this past weekend.
Yes.
You had enough for 24-hour news, right?
And the
there.
fact that this
Like,
isn't just because CNN went home. The people in Baltimore
they had already planned it.
are still here and still doing the work.
They are doing
And
the work.
It's still
They are
doing the work,
doing
and I think at higher rates than before.
And the Baltimore Symphony, I want to give
Absolutely,
that
for
was so
coming out and doing that
was
peace
wonderful.
concert. That was wonderful.
And then Darren
That was
Atwater.
wonderful.
Then you had the
and,
Soulful
Yes.
Symphony on
Soulful
top of
Symphony,
that.
yes, I got, yeah.
And then of course you
Right.
had Prince, so
Hippodrome.
Sunday
Right.
was off the hook.
Yeah.
No, but we had to pay for Prince. I had to pay for Prince.
Okay.
But no, the symphony came out. Yes.
But I
symphony was
will
true.
say, okay, at this time we have 2 questions from social media. Let's let them roll. Yes.
So one of them is someone on Twitter wants to know, what did you all watch? What channels were you watching during the outbreak of
I was surfing the channels.
I was out in the street too much to go watch TV.
I was surfing. I was surfing the news. I was watching the news. I was watching Xina. I tried to watch local news, but I'm gonna tell you one reporter who I was out there still. Jane Miller.
Jane Miller.
Jane
Jane
Miller.
has
I
always
said
been a pillar.
The world saw
Yes.
Jane Miller, and
Yes.
we are blessed to have a Jane
yes.
Miller. in
Right.
Baltimore.
Right.
Jane Miller.
She was amazing.
Right.
She's coming under fire
Right.
now for other stuff.
I
too.
heard.
Yeah. I might be.
But she did report
I might
the
be losing work
information.
off
She
of this
did.
one, but seriously, BAL owned it for Baltimore.
Yes.
WBAL, I didn't listen to the radio, I was watching TV, sorry, but WBAL TV
For
owned
TV,
it totally
correct.
for Baltimore.
Correct.
For the Nationals, everybody was a sad disappointment.
I think
They
that
were.
I
It was
think
hard.
I want to say I think that the 24-hour cable networks blew it. I
Yeah.
think that when on the night of the White House correspondent dinner, I did not go. I didn't have the television on, but social media told me what was going on in Baltimore, and I immediately turned on CNN and I watched that dinner. And I thought, well, they're going to cut in any minute. Nope. And then I switched over to MSNBC. Well, they're going to cut in any
I was watching
minute.
the live feed.
No.
Okay,
I
I was at the dinner because I worked there.
Yes.
And I had to go. Martin
Right.
O'Malley was there, and so was his wife.
Right.
And so, I mean,
was
there were other
shocked.
people.
No.
there. Yeah.
And I was shocked they wouldn't break down. And then when they went to D.L. Hughley, I went, okay, God, we got to go.
Well, I mean,
Gotta go. Gotta go.
And then if it's a
So-
Saturday night,
But
and
I
they're
want to
trying
say
somebody
this.
to talk.
I do
There
want to
you
say
go.
this. I think of all, and I surfed them, and I taped them, and I watched them when they were over, sort of
Yeah.
analyzing them, just so I can watch and see who did what and what angle they took. I think NBC got it right more times than anybody. I think Lester Holt got it right more than any other network.
And locally on radio, I gotta say, a shameless plug.
Oh, wow.
The best
Yeah.
radio
Yeah.
show.
Of course, we know that. We know that.
me.
watch
You commitment.
We only
Right.
give a few minutes.
It was WBL and actually listening to your show.
Yeah.
It was the other ones. I agree. On
Yeah.
a national level, were disappointments.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Meerkat. We are live broadcasting on Meerkat and Periscope and live stream. And Meerkat, they want to know what's an inexpensive solution for the national media outlets to help local stories get elevated to a national level?
Inexpensive?
Wow. There is new technology.
Yes.
that we, and I'm blocking on the name, but maybe you'll remember that. There's new technology now, which is there's a
Live View?
a van and a backpack.
That
Oh,
thing is
there
scary
is.
to me. Live View,
And
yeah.
it,
Okay.
and
it's
it connects to all the stuff in the sky. You can send an audio video signal anywhere.
I want to see the cancer.
It was used successfully by Real News here in Baltimore, doing all these demonstrations and got the signal back for people to watch. I mean, so the technology is changing to the point that costs like $10,000.
But I also think that networks have affiliates. And affiliate relations should be greater. And you should structure, as executive producer, you should be structuring your newscast in order to go back and see what's happening from your affiliates.
Yeah, if they had, like, for the MSNBCs and for the Foxes, please, it's like kind of use your local affiliates. That was an option, you know?
That's an option, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have 3 more minutes left. Okay.
Okay.
Guys, in this 3 minutes, this has been a delightful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not Mark
Way
Steiner,
too
but
short.
I'm not Mark Steiner, but I live to be Mark Steiner.
To be smart for hours and hours on end.
But you know, when you are immersed in a topic, you can talk about it.
Yes.
And that's the thing. You don't have to look up everything.
Right.
You can
We
talk.
have been talking about this.
We have been
We're
talking
living
about
it.
it. Yeah.
We're living
So,
it.
I'm gonna Nikki, I'm
Yes.
gonna start with you, and I'm
Yes.
gonna ask each one of you in a very quick synopsis of a synopsis. When the media comes back, because they will be coming back, national media will be coming back. There's a pattern and practice investigation. There's a trial that's they're going to come back. There's going to be summer, and if our numbers go with homicides through the roof, they're coming back. What should national media be doing, and what should local media period when it comes to focusing in on Baltimore?
I would say it's key to identify your local leaders. It's great to know the politicians that run the area or have elected positions and whatnot, but if you know the local leaders, the people who are actually on the boots on the ground people, find those people, and then you can follow the story a lot better than just jumping into the middle of a group of people who are irate and attempting to get the story organically. Organize your plan of action. That way you can actually cover this like you're educated. Otherwise, you're just going to throw yourself into melee, and then you get people cursing on CNN, where that person was amidst
Right.
FU signs. So what did you expect them to say after that? So you don't want any more of that.
Mark, at 101 Calvert Street, this beautiful building. I mean, this is a beautiful
Great building.
I think this is nice place for a book signing or a wedding. I don't know, but wedding reception. I'm telling you, restored, 1850s restored. But Mark, talk to me. What should the national media and local media do the next time the crescendo moment happens?
I think very simply, I think we have to cover the people organizing and doing the real work on the ground, what's happening in the community. You have to build that with attention of our elected leaders and experts who are talking about the field, and actually talk to people on the ground and mesh those stories together in a creative way so that tension is building, so people want to watch and listen to it, and getting the different points of view out there so we can begin to wrestle with what the reality is, which is what we don't do.
I think that it is time for media, period, to stop looking at the world from the point of view of how does it affect middle-aged white men.
Hello.
I think it is time to walk in someone else's shoes. It's time
Nothing to do with anyone else.
I'm sorry, I'm an independent.
alone.
No, I think it is time to grow up and look at news or any story, possibly standing and looking at it from another angle, and that's what any good reporter will do.
Yes.
It can't always come from this point of view and be judged in this value system.
Thank you, Joy. You are amazing.
Well,
Tanya.
I certainly concur with
I will
Kyle.
never work again. You know that. I will be.
We will help you find and the tambourine.
The rent party.
Well, I have to say say I do agree with all of my colleagues and what they said, but I really want to see the media be purposely proactive. And what I mean by that is not coming back when there is trial discussion or when there are several acts of homicide violence. I want them to kind of establish some grassroots connections with individuals that actually are doing the work currently and develop stories from the root, and it'll bear some really tangible fruit.
And I'm going to throw my little 2 cents in here. As someone who covers the White House daily, and you hear a lot of high themes, soaring themes, and you hear a lot of alleged remedies, maybe I'm in that boat. I want to hear next time when they come, let's not just be on that intersection and talk about this. Let's come with people who have solutions now, because it's time for solutions. We keep seeing, I mean, what is it? Sanford, Ferguson, New York,
North Charleston,
Cleveland, North Charleston. We forgot Tamir Rice.
Right.
North Charleston, Cleveland, and now Baltimore. And then it's going to be another.
Okay.
Yes.
There will be.
And
So we're seeing it. The spotlight. President Obama has spotlighted this racial profiling thing, policing, bad intentions. Now, where's the solution? Let's talk about solutions and fixes.
Right.
And that's what I want to hear from national media. And I want to thank each and every one of you and all of you who are watching for this fair and balanced civil discussion, Reporters Roundtable, on reporting of the Baltimore protests. We have Mark Steiner, the host of the Mark Steiner Show, Nikki Mayo, Associated Press Radio DC, the Baltimore Association of Black Journalists, also Joy Jefferson Norrie, founder and CEO of In Public Eye Communications, and Tanya Sharp, the associate professor at the University of Maryland. And I was your host and moderator, April Ryan, White House correspondent and Washington bureau chief for the American Urban Radio Networks. And don't forget to buy the book, The Presidency in Black and White, My Up-Close View of 3 Presidents and Race in America. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the tweets. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the conversation.
That was good. That was amazing.
That was fun.
That was amazing. You are some smart people.
But you know what? We know, I mean, you are.